Many indigents of Kano and other parts of Nigeria who thought the Federal High Court would resolve the dispute over who is the authentic Emir of Kano last Thursday were disappointed when the court left two of the contending forces in limbo. While the court declared the actions taken by Governor Abba Yusuf on May 23, 2024 as null and void, it stated, however, that its ruling does not affect the validity of the Kano Emirate Council Repeal Bill 2024, which was passed by the Kano State House of Assembly. The actions taken by the state governor included the deposition of the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, and the reversal of the status of the emirs of Bichi, Rano, Gaya, and Karaye Emirates to that of district heads, following the collapse of their emirates into Kano Emirate. Joining us now on the show is Sanusi Bature, spokesperson to the governor of Kano State. Good morning, Mr. Bature, and most welcome to the morning show.
Morning, thank you for having me.
All right, so Mr. Bature, I've just given a little summary of what's happened in close to 1 week now. I don't know if that High Court decision made things simpler or even more complicated in Kano State, but a number of things have come up, and some people have said that the actions taken by the governor, whom you represent, is almost anti what the court had ruled. I'd like you to clear the air. What's happening? So, the Kano State governor is still saying that this is their interpretation of the ruling, and the opposing party is saying this is it. Can you state categorically what the situation is currently?
Well, the fact that I have spoken so much on this issue, even in Arise, I think we don't want to overflog the matter, but we still owe Nigerians and Kano people the responsibility to explain the context. First of all, the ruling is confusing, of course, but to us is so clear in the sense that we have understood the decision of the Kano State Assembly has been reaffirmed by the court, and whatever happened is on the basis of that repeal law 2024 of the Kano State Assembly, which invalidates the 2019 law of the Emirate, bastardizing the Kano Emirate and balkanizing it into 5. So let's use common sense. Even if the governor did not reinstate Emir Sanusi, for the fact that the State Assembly, under its constitutional responsibility, decided to repeal the law, and the law is valid as according to the High Court decision, then automatically we are reverted to the pre-2019 circumstance of Kano Emirate, which has Emir Sanusi as the sole Emir of one united Kano State. That is a fact. So, and going by the decision of that court, which say actions taken after the repeal of the law, what people forget to understand is that the repeal of the law was brought to the governor on the 23rd of May 2024 by the Speaker, Kano State House of Assembly. And at the same time, the governor assented to the law and announced reinstatement of Emir Sanusi. And by the context of validity of that law, according to the court, it accepted the law as valid because it was assented at a time when there was no court order. And at that particular time, when the law was assented, Sanusi was reinstated, and there was no any order at that time. It was exactly 5:10 p.m. on the 23rd of May 2024. And this issue is not a magic because it is there live in different national television stations. Even in Arise, if you Google that, you will see exactly the time and the date where Arise News aired the assenting of the law and reinstatement of Emir Sanusi within the same time. So for this reason, we have filed an interlocutory appeal. Interlocutory appeal is an appeal that you can file before the determination of the main substantive matter before the court. So that interlocutory appeal gave us the opportunity to ask the judge to stay proceedings, which he granted, and transferred the case to another case. So by this context, Emir Sanusi II remains in the palace, and he continued to discharge all the responsibilities of an emir of one united Kano while we wait for what happened at the various court, because there have been different cases that are conflicting to one another.
Yes.
But people have those conflicting positions. So take, for instance, you remember the story of how the other faction went to town by saying, oh, the judgment actually says everything about, the law and all of that was nullified, that Sanusi should not be in there. And I want to ask you, is a reaction by the Kano State government the way to go? Now trying to demolish that Nasarawa Palace. Is that fair? At a time where we've not settled the matter.
Well, first of all, by virtue of the court, the High Court, the Federal High Court, declaring the law as valid, it confirms the deposition of former Emir Aminu Ado Bayero. And for the fact that he's now remained deposed, he's a private citizen like every other citizen of Kano, and he should not by any way be seen to occupy a government property. And that government property, as we have been saying, is defective. And we don't want to create a meaning out of anything that can happen, because it's a mud house and it has not been used for a long period of time. And he stayed there. He forcefully entered there by himself for about a month now. So, and you can imagine a very defective structure that has not been used for long, and it's a graveyard, to allow a very important personality like former Emir Aminu Ado Bayero to stay there for a very long period of time. So we wanted him to vacate that place so renovation can happen, because that place is used as a guest house and a graveyard. It needs to be renovated quickly so that it can serve the purpose which it's meant for. But continue to stay, for him to continue to stay there, it's really not, it's uncalled for, because he has the right to live freely.
No, continue to stay there, you can't say it's uncalled for. Why? There's a crisis, that's why he's staying there. Because this is part of the narrative that, we want peace in Kano.
Yes.
A lot of his admirers who are watching this show continue to stay there is uncalled for. No, there's a crisis. Okay. He came back with the backing of security forces of the state. You want to say anything you want to say as regards that. Then he stayed there for all this time now, because he was removed from his palace. Let's call a spade a spade.
Okay.
Going to demolish or claiming that you want to go and demolish, is that the best attempt at a time the matters have not been settled? You want to go and renovate a place on a man's head while the man is still there? Is that what you want to do?
That's why we ordered the police to evict him.
Why would you
Rufai, let me put this in another context.
You have a case that is not being completely interpreted. You are ordering the police to evict him.
When the governor reinstated Emir Sanusi, he has given 48 hours for all the former emirs to vacate the palaces. And Aminu Ado Bayero, in his own wisdom, decided to remove his family and everything belonging to him at the palace. I was there. It was so empty when Emir Sanusi entered. So, but few hours after, some unpatriotic politicians from an outside Kano decided to ignite him to come back to Kano and strike a fight.
Was he also the
which is quite unnecessary.
Sorry to cut you.
Even the court case.
Was it also the unpatriotic politicians that filed the court case?
Yes, some of them are behind it.
They are unpatriotic politicians.
Yes, some of them are behind it. Because this thing, whether you like it or not, there is politics to it.
Yes.
Because Emir Aminu Ado Bayero was appointed after the dethronement of Emir Sanusi. Why didn't Sanusi give a fight?
No.
At that time?
No, with due respect, you granted on that. When Sanusi left, he didn't give a fight. Granted. I give you that.
Yes.
We're having a conversation. I give you that.
All right.
But the point I'm trying to make, just a minute. The point I'm trying to make is, we all know what is on ground now. The circumstances at which he might have come back might not be what some people like. But he's been guided back by some military forces in there to that palace. We don't like the debacle in Kano, yes. But till pending the determination of the courts, is it fair to say you want to renovate that place and evict him from that place? That's just all I'm asking.
Okay, it's fair because he's living in a very defective structure. And I have said it times without number that that place is a guest house for the VIPs of the palace, and also a graveyard for late emirs.
Okay, why
do you think it's fair?
Why was
that? 1 minute.
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair for a VIP like former emir of Kano to stay in a very defective structure for more than a month?
Okay. Secondly,
issue to do with Emirates can take years, can take decades.
Okay, can I ask
you remember the issue of Emir Jokolo? He was dethroned in 2005. 19 years, the issue has not been determined yet at the Supreme Court.
Granted, can I ask you, can I also put forward this
go
position?
ahead, yes.
Granted, He's currently living there. Why wasn't the renovation done all this while? Why is it that when he started to live there, and after the court ruling, that you people have something to hold on to, then you are touting the renovation?
First of all, you need to, or people need to understand that he is an illegal occupant of that facility. He's trespassing because he is a private citizen.
So?
He's no longer the emir of Kano.
Has the court ruled so?
Well, we are before a court,
Yes,
and we have stayed. The court have stayed proceeding.
Okay.
So therefore, the
Mr.
emir,
Bature.
the reinstated emir is in the palace, and at the moment he has the official responsibility to discharge as an emir. So former emir Aminu Ado Bayero does no longer exist as an emir of Kano.
All right, Mr. Bature, I hear you. And you've said that there's a matter in court. In fact, yesterday was adjourned in terms of the suit instituted to stop Emir Ado Bayero and the other 5 emirs from posing as emirs. However, what is this sense of a rush, as it were, this urgency, sense of urgency by the Kano State government? It seems vindictive. And this sudden requirement or need to renovate a palace that you haven't renovated in a long time at this point, when there's still a court case pending, there's still a suit still before the courts. What's the rush? Can the Kano State government obey the rule of law and wait till the matter is settled, at least from the courts? Because like you yourself mentioned, or as I introduced earlier on, the court by the High Court last week was not in any way clear. I know you're trying to justify and say this is what it means, because if that were the case and it stopped all the actions by the Kano State governor post the passing of that law, then Emir Sanusi should not be reinstated. It should go back to status quo until it's determined fully by the court of law. So what is this sense of urgency? It looks, it sounds, it feels, it smells mischievous. You're disputing that. But what's the sense of urgency? Why now? Why is it important? And especially in the interest of peace, because both parties have their supporters.
You know, Kano is a very volatile state politically, and for the fact that Emir Aminu decided to come back to Kano after his dethronement is an attempt to breach the relative peace in Kano. So the governor has every responsibility as the chief security of the state to ensure safety of people. And Emir Sanusi is not the first and will never be the last person, the last emir to be dethroned, because being an emir is not a right, it's a privilege granted to a particular class of people. So with this, the first attempt by the governor to ensure peace in Kano was to advise former emir Aminu Ado Bayero to leave Kano, because to leave the palace, to leave the graveyard, yes, because for him to stay there, it shows some level of agitation or even level of contention that he is still the emir, while he's not. At the moment, governors or governor of Kano State retains the exclusive right to dethrone or appoint an emir. This is a fact, because the entire thing lies with the governor, and then the State Assembly has reviewed the law, has repealed the law. And so, therefore, even the emirate that Emir Aminu Ado Bayero served does no longer exist by accepting the validity of the law, because he was an emir of 8 metropolitan local government in the Kano Metropoli, which has been repealed by the law of 2024 of Kano State House of Assembly. So by all description, Aminu Ado Bayero is no longer the emir of Kano. And the more he understands that he lives as a private citizen, the better.
Okay, so you hit the nail
issues to do with the Federal High Court.
Okay.
They said it's based on fundamental human rights.
It's not for renovation just because he's staying there is a form of contention and agitation. We hear you now.
That's one of it.
All right.
Yes,
so it's not,
you've landed.
It's not because of the place.
Well, on the other side,
because you want to show him perfect.
That's the secondary thing. He lives in a very defective situation.
It's because you want to show Aminu Bayero perfect. That's why you want to renovate.
I wanted to keep up to date with what's happening there. Of course, in the interest of security, peace, order, and respect of the people of Kano State, it's important to bring this up to the fore. And we look forward to hearing more updates, and very importantly, that the rule of law is obeyed. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanusi Bature, spokesperson to the Governor of Kano State.